think you should do the show today, Audrey. No? Sleepy. Hello and welcome to Heather and Hops. My name is Catherine, and I'm a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. If you've been here a while, you will know what I usually say up front. It changes most of the time, but there's a few things that stick. I am based in Hertfordshire. This is my little space on the internet where I have documented my knitting journey from my first project through to now, where I've been knitting for 2.5 years with the company of my little kitten Audrey, who has spent the last half an hour asleep in her sofa and is now wanting to go out, so I'm just gonna let her out. So yeah, I hope this finds you well. Spring has happened. Equinox happened on Saturday and that was really lovely. We welcomed it in by, I did some sun salutations. I did a lot more than I had anticipated and feel quite good for doing so. We did some de-weeding in the garden. Alex has planted some seeds, which is lovely. The hops look like they're starting to come back already, and yeah, it was just a really nice weekend in the end. We did not very much on Saturday. Outside of those practices, we very much were aware that both of our bodies did need some downtime. So we watched quite a lot of a YouTuber called Itchy Boots, who is travelling around. Well, we're watching her journey from Patagonia to Alaska, and it's been absolutely just amazing to watch. It was really nice company. And then Sunday we went to the moors for just a bit of a, a little bit of a nature kick. It was really, really lovely. Yeah, soaked in some of that really good energy actually. It was lovely. There was not too many people, which is nice because, we're trying to be quite sensible about timings of when we go out, and it was just very beautiful. Today I have a cup of tea. I was going to say it's just a normal tea, but actually for me it's a very normal tea, but it's kind of very special too. Alex blends tea, that's what he does, and this is a breakfast blend that he created, and I really, really enjoy it. And just because I think it's really cool, and I'm not, I don't have to say anything, but he has actually just started a sort of sister company, not himself, but he's worked on it with his boss, and I just think it's a really good step in the right direction. I love to do what I can where I can, and tea is a thing that a lot of people just have and they just do, but to me it's a bit of a ritual, and if I can incorporate the aspect of making it from a loose leaf, so I'm not putting any paper or even plastic, I can't believe that's still used, in bags, that's a step in the right direction. But actually it's called Morningtown Tea, and they're actually putting the wages of what all of the producers get openly on the packet, so it's very transparent, and I just think that's really cool. I know that in the coffee world and the tea world now we're moving towards really good provenance, and I think that's really important, and that goes even for fibre, and I think crossover is quite amazing. But I think that's just such a huge step in the right direction, and it's a bit sad almost that that's the direction we have to go, but anything to be a bit more transparent, and I just think it's very cool. Anyway, I was actually talking to a friend last week about how I feel like I have in my day-to-day life. I don't know why I'm explaining this either, but hopefully it will help you. I have a almost really, really calm, placid side where just very gentle, and I have a very much chaotic side, and that's not ungentle, it's just silly. I'm like all over the shop and thinking about all sorts of things and creating and just a bit chaotic. And I feel like when I'm here talking to everyone, I'm like in a middle ground. So when people say, oh, it's really nice and calm, I'm like, oh, is it? But it's really nice to have you here, and I hope that I can bring you a little bit of calm and a bit of joy today. As anticipated, Audrey is at the door waiting to come in. She can actually get into the house without me, but she is a little bit of a princess sometimes. So thank you for being here. I'm hoping to share at the end just a little bit of the process of my lino cutting. I created a new, I don't think the right word's logo, but a new image to put on the start of videos and on our Discord servers and things, just because I thought it was fun. I had a almost clip art style image, and I studied art and visual communication at university, and it just never felt quite right to have something that wasn't entirely my own. So that was a really fun thing. So if you'd like to see that, I'm going to pop that at the end just before I pop in a little bit of a clip into our weekend. So first things first, I have a half finished object that I really love. So I finished one more step. All steps good, isn't it? For no nylon socks. So I've finished one more sock for my no. So here's little Audrey, who really is the star of the channel and my Instagram. She's basically in control. If I have anything to say, it generally happens through Audrey. But these are my first one of my pair of intersection socks, and I couldn't be more happy, to be honest. I really enjoyed, and I'm going to continue enjoy, knitting in Mondim. It's really got a lot of spring to it, which was really nice on the hands, on the fingers. It's quite twisted. It's almost lofty. Like, you can tell it's got a nice twist to it, but it's springy and bulky and sumptuous. I don't know, it just feels really good on my hands while I was knitting in it. And it's not that I didn't enjoy sock knitting in the past, but this made it actually a lot more pleasurable. In fact, all of the no nylon socks that I've worked with, the Garthenor Snowdonia sock, Bluebell Yarns mohair sock, and this, have all been a little bit gentler or just different, that provided something else to the hands, and I really enjoyed that. I didn't know, because I didn't put two and two together, that actually this design is by Marceline Smith, who I know as Mars, who is the lovely host of Hey Brownberry podcast. So now these are even more special to me, because I very much enjoy watching Mars's channel and have knitted on this quite a bit, not realising whilst watching. So that's really fun. It wasn't me that made that correlation. It wasn't until lovely Marina of the Marina Skewer podcast told me, basically. I was like, eh! And it suddenly, I didn't even know, and it didn't click, and then suddenly I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. So these are really special for that reason. I think I might have done them just a few rows too long, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. And I might rectify it on the second sock, we'll see. But here's the thing. So a lovely viewer, and I must find the names, suggested that, or explained that they use a lace weight non-superwash yarn in the heel and the toes when they're doing nylon free socks, and I think that's a really interesting technique, and I might try that in the future. And then someone else mentioned belting the heels and the toes, so I might try that, and I wondered if that might actually, it won't shrink the fibres, but bringing them together might actually reduce that length just enough so that these fit me like an absolute glove. I'm not sure. I'm also not afraid to learn to darn, so I'm half tempted to leave it, but I think if it might, you know, it might improve the fit just a bit, because they're really not off very much, but I know that having them fit just right will help keep them. So I'm tempted to try and felt them. So if you have any thoughts on that, I would love to hear. But yeah, so if you hadn't seen these before, I've been using DPNs to knit them. I did go down a needle size because that's what I generally have to do. I don't always, but I know from my personal gauge and the stitch count needed, I know that I would need to go down. And the only thing I have done is use a mini circular to do the cables. Now, I know that you can do cables without cable needles. I have cable needle to do it with, but I'm actually really enjoying the mini circular. It feels really sturdy, it's really nice to knit from. I have higher mini circulars, the 9-inch ones, and I just really like knitting with them, so it's quite nice to knit off a really nice needle rather than a cable needle that I don't really enjoy that much. But there's something special about doing it, and the whole process of making me a bit more conscious of what I'm doing. But yeah, I love these. I love the way that Mars lets you know how to get the beautiful cable to go into the ribbing too, and the heel was really interesting. But I do recommend both Mondim yarn. Not that I've worn it, but just to knit. If you just want something nice to knit, it's lovely. But I am looking forward to giving these a little spin. I have cast on the second one, but I'm really not very far into it. I've been quite busy, which is really nice. So I'm sort of dancing around projects and just doing what feels really right at the time. I'll put that down. Oh, honey. What should we talk about next? Let's go with this one. So I have been knitting on this one, strangely, mostly when I have been watching a series called Snowpiercer. If you know me, you will know that I'm pretty empathetic, I would say, as a person, and don't generally gravitate towards anything that might be negative. You know, I limit my news intake very much. I try to be very careful with how I use social media, and the same with entertainment. So Snowpiercer's, I think it's really interesting as a concept, and it's great to watch, but it does put me on edge. So this has been like, not only because the yarn itself was a gift, but it just feels amazing. Like, it's so soft that it kind of balances out a bit of that stress, and it's such a simple knit that I can be very engaged with the show, but my senses are a little bit, like, you know, they come down a little bit because of it. It looks a bit strange because I have it on a cable and then 2 DPNs, which is how I'm doing the sleeves. And this is, it was a very heavily modified Varpu. I've gone down a lot in gauge. I have added a few rows here and there and reduced things here and there. So I will try and put my notes on Ravelry, which I understand I'm not the best at doing, but I will try and do that. And I don't actually, have I got a ball? I've got one ball band here. So this is the yarn that I'm using, and it was a gift from one of the most generous people, Maud. Thank you so much. Don't know if you want to be called out, so that's as much as I'm going to give away, but it is 70% lamb's wool and 30% angora. and there's actually 100 meters per 20 grams, so it's quite, you know, it's quite a lot of yardage for the weight. It is a beautiful yarn. I love the colour. I have been more and more drawn to, I'm not necessarily light colours, but different neutrals. I'm wearing this dress that, I'll stand up and show you. This is just a muslin, really. It's just a, you know, a check to see if I can sew anymore, and I'm very happy with the outcome, and maybe I'll show that in the future. But I'm hoping to make another one of these in more thick yarn. But I'm drawn and sort of trying to balance my wardrobe using the mood boards that I created, and I think this is going to be really heavily worn throughout the spring, summer, and as a layering piece in the winter. I do have quite a few balls, so I'm going to pop this away. But I think that's all I really can say on this for now. But I'm quite excited. It's going to be quite fitted. But I wanted that because the Vapu's really oversized. And while that's lovely, I do quite like more... I love loose fitting things for sure. But when something feels that good, I kind of want it on my skin. I don't know. How do you feel about that? I think that makes sense. I don't think that's too out there of a thing to say. Yeah, and it's actually really nice working on that as well, because it's a complete step away from the needle gauge that's I'm currently using. So most of my things that I knit, I do knit sort of 4mm, 4.5 and below. So it's quite nice to use something a bit bigger, which isn't my favourite. It's definitely not my favourite, but it's moving your hands in a slightly different way, and I really, really like that. I like being able to change, and I feel like I've got a lot of projects on my needles, and I'm trying to, without rushing, work through a few of them so that I can then have just the 3 or 4. I think I've got a few more. I've got one that's coming off the needles very soon, which I'm going to talk about next. But I say very soon, what I mean is it was off my needles and it hopped back on. So last week I did a slightly different episode where I answered some questions, which was really fun actually. I quite enjoyed just chatting. It felt very much like I was just talking to you, like you were here, and I think this feels the same, but it was kind of more of a conversation because it wasn't totally show and tell, if that makes sense. So it was really, really nice. But I was working on this little flower top, this sort of motif that I'd got a swatch of it behind Audrey because someone, actually it was Marta, suggested wildflowers as a theme for Audrey, and I think I might turn that into a little cushion for her sofa or knit her one to go around the bottom to cover up this ghastly mess. So I actually did a bit of maths and put it into a jumper for myself, and I'm really happy with how this looks. I think it's really beautiful, and I love how this has come out. There's a little bit of detail in the ribbing, not much, and I love the shape. But here's the thing. So I did some small sleeves and I thought it was really, really cute, and actually on it was very cute. It looked like cottagecore is the best way to describe it. It had slightly poofy sleeves and they came in really tight, and it was sort of 1940s meets 20s cottagecore. It was like a really nice combination, but this yarn to me it's a warm yarn, and maybe I should have thought about that a bit more, but I only have this much left. So I ripped the sleeves back out and I am going to patiently wait and see if you and Ply have any more of this yarn. This is the Shropshire DK in the Middle Earth colourway. They don't have it, it's sold out on the website, so my hopes are minimal. If not, I'm going to wait until I can get to a yarn show, or I don't have any local yarn shops anymore, which is really quite sad, but I will wait until the London ones open a little bit more and maybe go and venture and see if I can get something really close. For a moment I thought I might do big mohair sleeves. I'm not doing that on this, because I just think it would be a really nice boxy, in particular over this dress, over all of my denim. I've got, I say all, I've got a denim skirt, a denim dress, and a black linen skirt, and a black linen dress, that this will be perfect over, you know, great for popping in my bag when the spring and summer evenings when we go out for our bike rides and things. So I really want to make sure this is right, so it's kind of going to go into the corner and just patiently wait, and I'm actually really okay with it. I'm okay in kind of, for now, considering this a paused object, a languishing object that will just be ready for me when the time comes. So with this, I have had quite a few questions, and I'm really excited that people want to be able to add this. And instead of doing any pattern or anything, I am going to write it up and I will try and pop it on Ko-Fi, because I just think that's a really, I've said this before, I'm so grateful for the support over on Ko-Fi. I keep crying just with gratitude, and thank you so much for the, like, from the bottom of my heart. And do a video tutorial too, because I just think it's a lot easier for me to show practically and have it written than to just have it written down. But I'm really happy with it, and like I said, I will do my best to get that up soon. I have a few other projects that might need to take the priority, but it should be up in the next couple of weeks. I really, really hope so. I'm gonna hit pause because I didn't realise how long I have been chatting. I don't know why I tell you that I'm gonna pause, I guess because editing breaks and things. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. If you happen to know anyone that has a skein of Shropshire DK Middle Earth, or a colour that's gonna match this closely, I would be glad to do a swap or try and purchase it, because I think I have this vision in my head and it just needs to be done. I just want to knit intentionally, and this is going to be something that I was going to gift first time I thought about it, but this is going to go with so much of my wardrobe that I think this is a piece for me, and I might knit a couple of gifts. I am seeing sort of gothic roses, so maybe a dark green or even a black here, a light grey background with sort of red or deep purples for the flowers, and like proper bluebell colours, and just, yeah, I think this is really fun. So I'm excited to be able to share it with you and to see other flowers sort of bloom. I'm getting a bit quick again. I'm going to try and have a sip, have a breath. So I think this is the final project to share, and this is one that made me feel really excited but quite anxious on the weekend. So we cast on for our spring intention shawl. Not everyone's cast on, some people are joining a bit later, and that's really fun actually, because they're getting to, again, maybe be more conscious, they're thinking about it ahead of time. I just think it's really cool. So we started it on Saturday, and I am, as ever, halfway through a row. I'm about 15 stitches into a row, so that's really good. But I cast on my second Whistle Bear version, so this is the third time that I've knit this, and really enjoying it. This version will go up to the studio at Whistle Bear, which is really fun to know that I'm gonna knit this one and then other people are gonna be able to play with my work, wear it, I don't know. I have the perfect little progress keeper, and I will insert a close-up of it, but Steph of Woolen Witch has actually put these up, and I haven't checked today to see if there's any left, but the February Club was a daffodil progress keeper, and I don't use these as stitch markers, but I do use it as a progress keeper, and I'm going to start popping it in and just using it to keep track of my knit that's growing. So this colour that I first used was East Wind, which I think would be great for an East Wind jacket. If I hadn't of knitted the version I did, I would be inclined to use this East Wind colour held with Whistle Bear's Yverine Bell. Just saying, I probably couldn't justify, I will not justify knitting another one because I love my version, but I would do that. And then this one is Serenity, and this is the Cheviot Marsh base in floor ply. Floor ply? Floor ply. And here is the, I guess, I'll bring up the East Wind again. The selection that that Alice and Tess chose. I did send them a message with colours that I was kind of drawn to, and I think they tweaked this slightly, and I think it's a beautiful combination. This one's the natural colour. This one is South Wind, I believe. This one is All at Sea. We have Longitude. What one are you? This one is Springtide. South Wind, Serenity. So this is really fun. This is a knit along that I am hosting, and it's very, I didn't anticipate it feeling this way, but it's a very personal project for me, and not just because the way I created the pattern was very mindfully, very intentionally, for a specific purpose, and not with the intention of a knit along, but I wanted a project that made me really consciously practice my knit and purl stitches because of my sort of 6-year project. I wanted it to only be knit and purl. I didn't want anything really complicated. It uses slip stitch, but just on the edge. There's nothing else to it. It's as simple as that to make beautiful textures that are, some require a little bit more thought, but mostly are quite intuitive and relaxing. And as I was working through each section that I created of texture, I was using the inspiration of the texture to cultivate thoughts and practice different things, and that's carried over into the knit along. So with the pattern you also get a PDF that has a few practices, some words, and I'm really excited to see how it and where it goes. I have already been quite taken back by the beautiful reflections that I've seen, and thoughts on the words that I've written, and how that's seen so differently or similarly, and that's been really fun. And we have a little knit night on a Saturday, and that's really, really fun too. I was really taken back and really enjoyed spending time with knitters that I have met in the past online. I've not really met any knitters, or very many in real life. I did meet some at Make Joy, which was really fantastic, but that hasn't happened obviously. But people that I know that have been here with me, you know, for nearly 2.5 years, or maybe it is 2.5 years at this point, that I've interacted with and got to share and chat with, and actually get to sit down and chat, was really, really nice and exciting. So yeah, one of the things that also came up is that I did a swatch again, because all three of my testers, I think, went down needle sizes to get the gauge that, or at least 2 of them did, maybe 3 or 4, forgive me, but most people that tested the pattern, there's 4 testers, went down not just necessarily 1 but 2 needle sizes. So I thought that was strange, because I know that from experience I'm quite a loose litter. So I actually did another gauge swatch, I don't have it with me, and I have had to go down 2 needle sizes from what I did the pattern in. So I'm going to update that, as I'm going to bring it down 1 needle size as the recommended, but I still encourage swatching. But I realised when I did a bit of reflecting and looked in my book, I was actually really quite unwell, and what I realised is that this is not the nicest thing to say out loud, but I had really sticky hands. And this is quite a grabby yarn anyway, which is great, and I think, you know, if you're a newer knitter, this is a lovely thing to have in a yarn. But I knit really tightly, so I've actually had to go down 2 needle sizes. So I thought I would share that, because, you know, this pattern in particular is quite close on yardage, because that was the intention. I didn't want to have any waste left over. And by waste I just mean scraps, which can be used, but you know. So yeah, I just thought it was very interesting to actually realise that sometimes it's worth swatching or just trying again, even if it's only been a month or 2 months after you knit something, because that is a startling difference. And anyway, I guess you can't see very much of it, but today I've been wearing my Elf Mail, which is a pattern by Danny Knits Things, or Danny Meager, on Ravelry. I really love this jumper and this version. I've had it for quite some time. This was my own hand-dyed yarn. The golden colour is one of my favourites. That is repeatable, but I'm not currently doing any of that. And the darker greeny browny, I don't know, I love the colour, is called Fjord, or Ford, after the D&D character from Critical Role. Yeah, I think this is the second smallest size, and it's a pattern that I am kind of eager to knit again. I'm not going to rush into it, but I have 2 yarns, one by the lovely Steph of Woolen Witch, and one by Twisted Squirrel up in Scotland that's called Wild Mother, and I can't help but think it would be the perfect project to keep me company on one of my knitting D&D campaigns, which is really exciting. But I might go up even, I'm not sure, I don't know, because I'm not sure I need another top in my wardrobe, but maybe if I go up 1 more size it could then be a gift, and I get to enjoy knitting it, because I really want to. It's a really nice, intuitive pattern to knit, but I get the satisfaction of giving a gift too. So I'm pondering that. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking for quite some time already today, but next week I'm hoping to get my lovely husband to be here so that we can talk about his Gansey, just a little update, and his natural dyeing. And he has done, not loads, but he did have a full weekend of natural dyeing, and it was really fun to see him experiment and learn, and myself, I got to kind of listen in and sneak a few skeins of yarn into the mix too. So we're hoping to do that next week. And yeah, so it's been really nice sitting down and chatting actually today. I didn't realise how chatty I feel, but I do, so I might go and hassle some friends. I'm hoping to jump into Knit Night tonight because it was really nice on Friday. If you don't know, we have a Discord server that is quite large now. I try and keep it in check, and we but it kind of looks after itself. There's so many of us now, I think there's over 200 knitters, and it was quite a big knit night on Friday, but it felt really great to talk to, you know, I think there was 15 or 18 knitters from around the world, all in different time zones, all talking about anything from cats, which is great, through to patterns. And we had a really interesting conversation, unfortunately just before I was ready for bed, but about what you look for in a pattern, because there seems to be a few really quite different groups, from those that want every piece of information and lots of tutorials, step-by-steps, and there's others that find having too much information almost off-putting. So I thought it was really interesting to hear and listen and chat about, and I think going forward I'd love to do some sort of polls and just collate a little bit of information on how we feel as a community, if you know what I mean, because it's a lot of work. I was just suggesting, well, my instinct was to say, well, you could within one set price offer two patterns, so one with the full information and one without, but then how do you justify what should be taken out when you've created this pattern that goes step by step with everything? It's just very interesting. Anyway, with that, I'm going to leave you with, hopefully I remember, some footage of making my Lino cut knitting ball design logo thing, I don't know, and some lovely footage of nature, hopefully. So thank you so much for being here. As always, it really is such a pleasure. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I feel quite content in the level of keeping up with what I'm putting on social media. I'm quite in a good place with being able to balance making sure I'm responding and getting back to everyone, and, you know, appreciating the time that's spent A, watching, but B, sharing information, sharing stories with me. It really it's a highlight of my day, actually popping in and just, so if you've got any questions, I will do my best to answer quite swiftly, because I am trying to do as good as I can. Yeah, I really hope that no matter what you're doing, what you're getting up to, that you do take a moment to maybe look inwards and become a little bit more at peace, that you find some time to look after yourself, maybe celebrate a little nod to spring, welcoming the longer days. And in fact, it's really sunny today, and it was pretty grey all weekend, so although I went out this morning, I might sit in the garden for a little bit, maybe even try and edit today's video from the garden. Oops, so I ran out of memory, but in a nutshell, I'm going to go and sit outside if I can. The builders are quite loud today, but I think maybe with some headphones just to soak in the sunshine will be a very good thing to do. I didn't show, but here is my Spring Intentions wrap. And with that, I hope to see you again really soon. Please look after yourselves, please be kind to one another, and I will see you soon. So once I had drawn a few sketches, I then took that image, took a photograph of it and put it on my mum's very old iPad and put it into Sketch. I then drew over the lines and kind of made some tweaks to where I wanted it to be. Then when I'd done that, I printed out the image and drew over the lines I'd created just in pencil, and flipped it over, and then used a pencil again to rub over the image to transfer it onto the lino. And once I was ready, I took the fine tip from my little cutter and put on my glasses and started cutting away. I really enjoyed this entire process, just giving my hands something else to do, a little bit of different creativity within my brain. And then once I was ready, I used some, I think it's water-based block printing ink, and rolled it onto the lino, and then I rested the paper on top of the lino and used a spoon to apply pressure to create the print.